Well, welcome everybody. If you're joining us now, we're going to take a few minutes to let everyone kind of join us. Please share who you are, give us your name in chat, and tell us where you're calling from or where you're joining us from. And you're probably wondering, well, who are you? So I'll introduce myself really quickly, and then we'll do introductions around the horn here in a moment as you're coming in. But I'm Christie Kirk. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing at Barrett-Koehler. I'm going to kind of guide you into our discussion today and then wrap things up for you today as well. So please tell us where you're joining us from. We're excited to hear from you. And we'll give everyone a little bit of time as they join. I'm going to start the conversation. How's that?
Wonderful.
Because sometimes people don't want to be the first. And people are coming in. As you join, please share your name and where you're joining us from today. We're going to get started at about 2 after the hour as more people come in. We're so glad you're here with us today. We're excited to talk about trust. I can't think of anything the world needs more right now than trust.
Amen.
There are a lot of things we need, but trust is right up there. But again, tell us where you're from and your name as you join, please, if you feel comfortable. Just your first name. You don't have to give, any deep information, but let us know where you're joining us from today. And we're going to take a few minutes as people start to join us. So, Steve, you're joining us from Cody, Wyoming today. Do you have snow?
We do, yes.
Wow. So, when does snow end in Wyoming? When are you snow-free?
Sometime in April.
Oh, okay. All right. And then, of course, Dennis and Michelle, you're in Vermont. So when are you snow-free?
Oh my goodness. I think at the rate it's going right now, we've had unprecedented snow. Maybe if we're lucky in April, it'll go away. But it's a winter wonderland here. Absolutely stunningly beautiful.
Best skiing in 10 years.
Wow. Wow. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We're about 3 minutes after. More people are going to be joining. As you join, please tell us a little bit about yourself. But want to frame why we're here today. And we're here for a couple of reasons. One, we're here because today is the launch day for Michelle and Dennis's latest book, The Art of Trust Building. It's an important book. It's a book that's needed right now in these times that we're living in. It's needed for business, but it's needed for home. It's needed for life. There are no healthy relationships without trust. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Trust is critical to all of our relationships, and it is a critical leadership capability. And it's something, there was a time when we talked about soft skills, but now we know that trust isn't a soft skill. It is a foundational skill. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. So as we get started, let me introduce Doctors Michelle and Dennis Reina to you. I'm so honored and grateful to have gotten to work with them through this book. We've had such a fun time and more fun to come as the book goes on. But they are global thought leaders on trust. They've been at the forefront of defining how trust is built, broken, and rebuilt in the workplace. They're the creators of the most widely adopted workplace trust models in use today. And for more than 3 decades, their research and practical frameworks have shaped how leaders and organizations around the world understand trust, especially during times of change, disruption, and challenge, like now. Their work is the framework for that. And they're the pioneers who've really translated that theory about trust into real, tangible daily practice. They've written several amazing books, Trust and Betrayal in the Workplace, Rebuilding Trust in the Workplace. But today we're really celebrating their latest book, what they consider their most defining work, The Art of Trust Building, Transforming Lives, Teams, and Organizations. It's really an evolution of their work. And it moves beyond models into that lived practice. That's what we need, right? We need that lived practice. And I'm so honored to introduce Doctors Michelle and Dennis Reina and your amazing work, and so excited to get talking about it. So I'll kick it off with a quick question. And that is, you've written about trust for many, many decades now. I don't know if Steve's going to share the photo he shared before we went on, but it's been a minute that you've been really delving and researching deeply into trust. So why this book, The Art of Trust Building, at this moment? Why was it important for you?
Thank you, Christie, first for that gracious introduction.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And Dennis and I want to just express how proud we are to be here with you and Barrett-Koehler.
Absolutely.
And how much we appreciate the support we've received from you and the entire Barrett-Koehler team to bringing us to this moment. It's a great question. Why this book and why now? Because as you've mentioned, we've been at it for a while, and as has Steve, we've been at it together for a while. But today we are living in unprecedented times.
Yeah.
We are living in a time where there is change and disruption and uncertainty that is unlike anything any of us have experienced in this lifetime. People every day are being asked to step into uncertainty, to embrace ambiguity. And I think while we don't have in the chest right now, Krista, we know there are people joining us from all over the world. All over the world, there are people here. And what we all know is that trust has taken a hit. It's taken a really hard hit. Yet at the same time, with that hit, there has come an elevated awareness of how important trust is. So the need for it and the value of it has not been lost. But what has become blurred is, how do we earn it? How do we bring that into our lives? I love your opening comment. Trust is essential in all facets of our lives,
Yes.
At work and at home, because we're whole human beings. Dennis and I have become increasingly sensitized to this dichotomy that the value of trust has not been lost, but how do we earn it? We moved to bring this book into this world at this time to equip people with frameworks and tools and knowledge and skills to help them ignite. What they most need right now is that deeper connection with one another that trust makes possible.
And with that, we actually saw a gap, because trust is often talked about in the abstract. And what this book does, it takes the concept of trust and
Oh no, did we lose Dennis and
a very
Michelle?
behavioral approach.
You froze for a minute. Go on, Dennis. Sorry.
Yes. So we take the concept of trust and make it very actionable and behavioral, and take it into very everyday language so that people can put those principles into practice each and every day.
Are we coming through now, Christie, our connection?
You are. Yes, we can hear you perfectly now. And that's fantastic. Well, why don't we go ahead and bring Steve into the conversation? And I'll do a little introduction. I know you both want to say something, but Steve Piersanti is the CEO and publisher at Barrett-Koehler Publishers, and he's worked with the Reinas for many, many years. They have wonderful stories to share. And Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. So I worked with Dennis Michelle on their first book, a path-breaking book, as is this book, a book that changed the field of trust, published in 1999. I was just sharing with them, I noticed on the inside front cover, there is what the fun thing about the photo is that they still look very much like they did then. Who can say that? So that's wonderful. What grabbed us in the very beginning is they brought to the table as authors a very strong academic background, research basis for their book, while being able to translate it into practice, as it's actionable and behavioral, as Dennis just said. And that's what really stood out and still does in their work. The book is the new book, The Art of Trust Building. You see lots of copies behind Dennis's head, but the new book is written for leaders, managers, supervisors in all kinds of organizations, and it's both for their own use and for their teams that they will give it out to. And also individuals will find the book useful in their own lives, with their families, their personal lives, their home, as well as their work. relationships. This book is needed now more than ever because the world has become so much more fractured in many decades than it has been in many decades. So we are thrilled at Barrett-Koehler to be working with you again on this new book.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. And it's been particularly special for us. We have close to a 30-year relationship with Steve. And I think what many people may not realize, Steve, is that you are the founder of Barrett-Koehler. You are the CEO of Barrett-Koehler, and you have ushered in over 700 books connecting people and ideas to create a world that works for all. You've been our editor, our coach, and our mentor all of these years, and our compadre through this book. And our relationship with you, particularly in this book, is a really extraordinary example for Dennis and I on what trust makes happen. Because the three of us, really set the pathway to write this book just about a year ago. And while we have history and experience, one of the facets of trust that you really brought to life through this book was actually helping to stretch us, helping us to grow deeper and deeper into our view for this book, our hope for this book, and our intentions for this book, and to align the editorial lens with this book. We sought out to provide in this book people with a pathway. This need for trust is so well known, but wanting it and needing it is not enough. Valuing it is not enough. We want people to know what they can do, what actions they can take to bring trust into their lives. So the three dimensions of trust is, a core pillar, a very core ingredient to the book, where we deliver chapters on each of the three dimensions of trust and behavioral framework that helps bring them to life.
Absolutely. And these three dimensions, there's trust of character. We do what we say we're going to do. It's the starting point of any relationship, whether it be at work or at home. And then there's trust of communication, how openly and honestly and transparently we speak with one another. And then that third framework is trust of capability, how we acknowledge and leverage the skills of one another. And each of these three dimensions have behaviors that support that dimension. And that helps people take it from the concept and put it into very actionable and behavioral terms so that they can put it into practice each and every day.
And I would add that those behaviors that you cover in each of those three chapters, that's one of the real strengths of the book. The book goes beyond just theory or just admonition to actually detailing the behaviors that make a difference in workplaces, in people's lives, in their relationships, and it's very strong in that regard. Another big contribution of the book is the individual trust scale. Doing assessments has been one of the strengths of the work that Dennis and Michelle have done throughout all of these 3 decades. It's always been something to distinguish their work. They're very good. They create very reliable, validated assessments, and so that's always been part of their work. But what they've done here is they've created an individual trust scale that this is the first time it's been published and made generally available to people. And
Yes.
that's a huge benefit of this book, to have this trust scale that each reader of the book can rate themselves. And it not only builds on decades of research, but it's also very practical, very revealing for the reader.
That's so true, Steve. People need a starting point. They need to really help them. And what this tool does is equip them with a starting point that they can actually assess the level of trust in their relationships, both with themselves and with one another. And so it really measures their own trustworthiness, because we want to find out, how do we bring ourselves to our relationships? And of course, the most important relationship is that which we have with ourselves, but also, how do we bring ourselves with one another?
The other aspect around this, Steve, is you actually helped us arrive at that decision when serving as our editor and our coach through this process. you continue to help us dig deep and how to make this real, how to make this actionable. And we've learned through our years that when people engage in assessment, it helps them take a moment to really tune into themselves. It helps us to grow into our own awareness. Now, what our team did was brilliantly, because, we have an extraordinary team of people who support us.
Yes, we do.
What our team did was brilliantly help to create an insights report, because data is one thing, but we want the readers to understand where they can take action based on their assessment data. And, Steve, this is one part I don't know if we shared with you, but we're extremely excited about it. Our team said to us, hey, guys, we need to help people with this assessment progress in their journey. So they have actually an opportunity to take it twice so they can tune in and keep pace with their own growth and their own development.
And people get a very robust feedback report that really helps them increase their awareness and put that into action.
Yeah, that's a huge contribution that the book is making, and the information you provide kind of behind the book for people who interact with you. An enormous contribution of your work. Another contribution that I want to call attention to is your focus on trust breakdowns, or as you put it in your first book, betrayal in the workplace. But that's it. It's actually getting into what happens when trust is lost, and how can you recover it? What are the dynamics of it? And one of the things the points that you make, which is really strong, is that most trust breakdowns come from small moments, not big betrayals. It may be something that one party thinks was no big deal, or why are they getting upset about that? Or according to your research, 90% of trust breakdowns come from small actions or omissions. And can you just share a little bit more about that dimension of your work?
That's actually been a pivotal facet of our work that goes back to the early stages of our research, where we learn from the leaders and teams and organizations that we work with. Trust is an energy field, Steve. We don't see trust, but we feel it. When it's present, it's energy expansive, and there isn't anything we can't do. Yet when it's absent, energy contracts. People pull back and can withdraw their best efforts. Often when we think of the breach of trust, all of us think of big, big things that occur. We think of the breach of trust in terms of betrayal. And yes, betrayal does occur. Yet on a day in and day out basis, what causes trust to be the most vulnerable are the small, subtle, unintentional acts that diminish trust over time. We may, as an example, fail to keep an agreement.
Yeah.
We don't come through as promised. Somebody's left holding the bag. We struggle to get the kind of information that we need to be able to take action. We may feel that we're not really empowered to carry through our duties because rather than being given authority, we are micromanaged. We may be asked to take risks and think out of the box, but when we make a mistake, we may feel judged and criticized rather than being supported to learn and grow. One of the most pervasive behaviors that causes trust to break down in organizations today is when people engage in gossip and backbiting. Rather than coming to one another and talking in an open, honest way about issues and concerns, we turn to the back channels and go underground and conjecture. And rather than talking with one another, we talk about one another. In and of themselves, some of these acts, we may extend grace. We may chalk them up to, circumstances at a moment in time, but when they build and they accumulate over time, they take the shape and form and have the impact that is equivalent of a significant betrayal. And that's where pain sets in, and it begins to erode the level of trust within culture and relationships.
Absolutely. And this happens in the workplace each and every day. With missed deadlines and communication that's not shared and vague timelines, etc., and follow through and accountability fall through. And so what we provide in the book are steps that people can actually take. We provide a framework, a proven process and a proven pathway that people can take and work through. First of all, they need to acknowledge the breach and the betrayal, and then work it through together so that they can come out with the outcomes they want.
You know, Steve, we created the 7 steps to rebuild trust at the request of leaders and teams that we worked with. Again and again and again, over the years, people have said, you know, Dennis, Michelle, when trust is broken down, what do we do? Well, what you do is you step into it and you work through it. And while we all need frameworks and tools and techniques to build trust, trust is never one and done. It requires steady attention and intention. The 7 steps for healing is what helps us create sustainability. So when there is a mishap and trust is vulnerable, we have a place to go, we have actions to take, and language to speak that helps us rebuild to create that sustainability that is so essential.
And it's essential not just in the workplace, but also in our personal lives as well. Working through, disagreements, working through painful divorces, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I'd like to jump in, if you don't mind, with a quick question, and that is, what mistakes are leaders making around trust? Because I think many leaders are thinking, oh, I'm really trustworthy. My team trusts me, but the team may have a completely different experience. So what are the mistakes we're seeing?
Well, you know, Christie, that little scenario play you just offered is actually rather insightful. Trust cannot be left to blind assumption.
Right.
And leaders really need to know how are others really experiencing their behavior, because we can never take trust for granted, ever, ever, ever. And a leader's trustworthiness in and of itself is not enough. Trust is everybody's role and responsibility. So one of the mistakes that leaders often make is treat trust as a one and done. It's a one-time conversation. It's a one-time act. It's a one-day, workshop. Trust coming into and becoming a part of the fiber and the fabric of an organization requires steady intention. Leaders can never take it for granted. Their own trustworthiness is a key component, but as I said, it's not enough. They need to help everybody adopt the behaviors to build trust, because everybody needs it from one another.
And often people look to their leaders to initiate. And yes, the leader does have the first responsibility, but trust building is everyone's responsibility, each and every one, because trust begins with me, trust begins with you, trust begins with each and every one of us.
Wow, that's such a good reframing. I think we understand that, but we don't. But oftentimes we in a business environment, we do outsource that responsibility.
Right.
I'm trustworthy. You need to fix it. Yeah, thank you for reframing that.
Also, what happens, Christie, is sometimes we tend to wait for somebody else to take the first step, especially in these times that we're living in of disruption and change and uncertainty. And as Steve says, this pervasive vulnerability. So sometimes we all kind of step back, and there's a tendency to wait and see, what is the next person going to do? Where in the book, the message is none of us needs to wait. We can take that first step.
Yeah. I think you bring up, and I think we have time for this one last question, which is, toxic environment. There's a lot of toxicity in the world today, in the work world, just in the world in general. Can you build trust in this kind of environment? What do we do? If the trust breaker is at the top, what do we do in the middle and in between when it's a difficult situation?
Well, first of all, you have to understand what are those specific behaviors that are breaking trust, okay, and understand the nature of the beast, so to speak, and acknowledge those and the impact that it's having on people, okay? And you can actually use the 7 steps and then allowing those feelings to surface, because we all have feelings about decisions, right? Both home decisions, business decisions, etc. But more importantly, if we're going to reframe the experience and take responsibility, what support do we need and where do we get that? Okay, do we, get that from leadership, et cetera, et cetera. So those are important, but first and foremost, you have to acknowledge where the breakdowns are.
The other facet of it, Christy, to build upon Dennis for just a moment, there are a lot of things that are happening around us that can create toxicity that we don't have any control over. But we do. Each and every one of us has control over how we choose to respond.
Right. We have choice.
We do. And while there are some of these things that impact us, it doesn't necessarily give us permission to behave in ways that are not trustworthy. We always have choice on how we are going to respond and how we are going to show up in the relationships with those that we work with and share our lives with.
Wow, I think that's a really powerful way to wrap up our time together. We ultimately have the choice, and we can't wait for others. I think that's an incredibly powerful reminder for all of us. Thank you both. And thank you, Steve. And I want to quickly say to all of those who are with us today or who watch the recording later, if you don't have The Art of Trust Building yet, go get a copy. You want this book. It's going to make a difference in your life, in your work life, in your personal life. If you already have a copy of the book, read it and leave a review. And here's why we ask for reviews. It's because they lift the book up. They help the book get seen by more people. We need trust in this world. We need these ideas to go out in the world and be disseminated. And your review helps the book get in front of someone who may not know that they're searching for something about trust, but they'll see the book, they'll find the book, and the idea grows. Buy the book for a friend, for a coworker, for a leader in your company. Give the gift of these ideas. It's really powerful. And it helps us build better workplaces and a better world. So I hope you'll consider purchasing the book, buying it for a friend, and definitely leaving a review. So thank you again. And Michelle and Dennis, I think you want to say a final word.
Well, we want to thank each and every one of you, listeners and our audience today. First of all, thank you so much for coming. This is our life's work. It means a lot to us, but in practice, it means even more when you put those behaviors, when you put those principles into practice. So thank you, and God bless.
And we'd love to thank our team, Christy, who are all here with us from around the world. There's no way we could do it without them. And we thank BK for the trustworthy relationship we've shared for many years. And as we often say, the journey continues. And I think, Christy, we have just officially launched The Art of Trust Building.
Hallelujah.
Yay. Congratulations to both of you. I can't wait to see what this book does in the world.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.